Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at some screenshots of Final Fantasy XVI's landscapes. Yeah, with an official trailer out, we now know there's going to be a lot more promotional material over the next year while we wait for the summer 2023 release. We're waiting to see what kind of interviews and little tidbits of information get released in the immediate future. However, for now we have been given 8 screenshots to look at just to get a glimpse of the graphics and the environments. Some of these locations we can readily tell where they are, especially this first one, whereas other ones are still kind of a mystery. So in screenshot number 1 here, what we actually have is the northern area of Valisthea, the continent in which Final Fantasy XVI takes place. Now, if we look at a map that I extracted from the Final Fantasy XVI website, you can see right here up by the Holy Empire of Sanbreque. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but that is indeed where this is located. Given the way they're introduced in the first trailer, with the Empire seemingly responsible for the attack on Rosaria when Clive and his brother were younger, it's very, very possible that they are going to be a major driving force in terms of antagonism in this game, though it's Final Fantasy. I'm sure there's a grander force at play here that's actually moving the pieces little by little. But yeah, that's where that is located, up by the Holy Empire of Sanbreque. Now, moving on to screenshot number 2, this looks to be north of the Dalmeckian mountain, where the mother crystal for their empire is actually located. If we scroll down, this looks to just be a view of this mountain, but it's so far away that it is kind of hard to tell. It is kind of reasonable to expect that some of this open land would be kind of marsh-like or swamp-like, like we see here. But unfortunately, this one is just a guess, because we can't say for absolute certain that that mountain in the back is this exact one, even if they are indeed both mountains. So that remains to be seen. Now, this next screenshot is equally as confusing. Not confusing, by the way, this is my favorite screenshot of the batch, as grand as the scale is of the other one. I love this kind of tight enclosed forest area. And I have a couple ideas of where this might actually be on the map. And the first one is actually this landmark over here. Now, this is a heavily wooded area, and there are a lot of heavily wooded areas throughout Valisthea, as you can see. But I have a feeling it's around this landmark right here. We can see that this isn't just a standard stone path with trees. You can see there is some actual there is some actual stonework, it looks like, right there being played into effect. So whatever this is, it's probably around an important landmark on the mini-map. And given that most of these screenshots seem to be focused around the western side of the map, that's where I'm going to stake my guess, but it's not super important. It's really more important to just look at the screenshot, the lighting effects, the water, the grass, the trees, the foliage, everything, as Clive just takes a casual stroll through said forest. Moving on to screenshot number 4, the first comment I saw regarding this one was, oh look, we're going back to the Waking Sands. How exciting. Oh, no. It also gives us a really good look at Clive's weapon on his back. You can see the double straps on it and the kind of open hilt that it actually acts as. A practical place to keep your sword. Well, I guess as practical as you're going to get in an RPG. You can also see some of his different pouches that he has, and I can hear my cats just deciding to cause trouble in the middle of my recording behind me. Now, this is most likely the Dalmeckian capital down here, which, as you can see just from the kind of layout that it appears to have, it just is a very similar structure as a landmark on the map. But again, we can't say for certain that's where this is. Either way, I hope we see Tataru, and she has lots of clothes and bread made for us. Now, going on to the next screenshot. This one is kind of a toss-up for me. So this is some sort of dark chamber. You can see there's this almost eyeball-looking thing, really probably more like an egg, if I had to guess, chilling at the end of an altar. Now, because it's an altar on top of the really spiky kind of look to it, it's very similar to the city that we saw in Valisthea, the Holy Empire of Sanbreque earlier. You can see the long, tall, narrow columns that are frequently used, and it's even a little bit more apparent in some of the artwork that was shown of this ages ago, specifically referring to this tower here. However, I'm not willing to say for certain that this screenshot is taking place inside of Valisthea. Again, the altar, it really leads me to believe that. But the color scheme, the more kind of darkish, I'm going to guess purple because I'm colorblind, around the water around this and the lighting. If I had more information about what their site actually looks like, I might actually peg this to be up by Wallowed, which should be responsible for Odin. Now, even that hue kind of gives me Ramu vibes, as well as the, again, the long architecture that seems to be present in the room. But the only thing kind of dissuading me is that altar and the fact that a giant egg/orb-like thing, well, let's just say that the dominant of Sambrek is actually blacked out on the site. We don't know what it is, and if I were to guess what their summon would be, it would probably be Bahamut, which, having a giant looks to be eye/egg thing, wouldn't be too surprising. Some of the sections of it kind of look like wings or have wing-like patterns in them as well, but chalk this one up to a guess because I think it would be dumb for me to say that it's definitely one or the other. Now this location, once again, beautiful. Really get to see the lighting and the detail on the more muddy ground here, especially the sun shower that it's having. This is actually Clive standing over a Dragoon from the Holy Empire, and as such, this is also very likely not too far from Valisthea. There's no way to say because we can't actually see the main landmark of Valisthea to the north there, but and also, a Dragoon from the Holy Empire does not mean it's near the Holy Empire. It's just worthwhile of a guess. Again, there's tons of land here that we're not really sure about the layout of it. So that's just going to be what my guess is for this. But again, the light, I'm really digging the lighting more than anything else. Now, this is the second time we're seeing this. And I'd also like to point out that it looks like Clive's the clasp on his sword is actually a decent bit different here. We can even see that Clive has a few different outfits, and all of these do seem to be older Clive. You can see here he has more of a hood, and his armor is a little bit more spiky. Same with this one, same with this one. But then when we actually go, and also even same with this one, but when we go to this other screenshot, some of his wardrobe does appear to be slightly different. You can see the pouches on his waist are a little bit different. The armor and the spikiness, it's more cloth-like in this one. And there's only one strap on his actual hilt, his leather hilt on his back for his sword. Even the sword itself is slightly different. So this could just be a weird angle of a younger Clive, or it could even be a Clive that is between the young Clive we first saw and the older Clive that we've seen as well. That remains to be seen, but at the very least, there's definitely some differences, especially in the sword. So I'm assuming the sword is just at a different point in the game. They had different equipment for this screenshot, but showcasing the visuals of Clive's armor and his appearance, that it won't just be static throughout the entire game. In fact, here you can even see some of those differences are present from the next screenshot. Yeah, similar outfits to both of these. This location was also featured in the first trailer. They showed him fighting a goblin here. They showed him fighting a Malboro here. It's dark. It's swampy more so. And again, if I had to wager a guess, it would probably be somewhere not too far from Rosaria. In the initial trailer, it's really hard to tell where young Clive actually belonged and how much of the game we play as older Clive. Most likely, the majority of the game is played as older Clive, and the younger Clive kind of just serves for the earlier section. If that's the case, I'd be willing to bet this is actually quite close to the kingdom of Rosaria, especially given the water that's likely leading to some swamps inland if you look towards this section down here around this city, which appears to even have a little bit of a spring going through it. So that's where I'm going to guess, is that it's somewhere not too far from his home capital of Rosaria. And we'll move on to the next one. This is just a cliffside. I don't know what you want me to dissect here. It's a wonderful looking cliffside. I mean, I guess this actually is probably not too far from where the battle in the first trailer actually takes place, in that narrow ravine. And there we saw Shiva and Titan going head to head. And so I'm willing to bet that's somewhere not too far from from the Dalmeckian Empire. Although if Shiva's there, we actually don't have a 100% grasp on which nation Shiva is from. There is the chance that it is from Valisthea, even though they kind of blur the line. Again, they don't say, so it almost makes it seem like it should be from Bahamut. But if I had to actually make a bet, Bahamut would be from the Crystal Dominion. I actually made a whole video about predictions regarding where each of the icons was actually from. And given that each of them are from, this is the Drake's breath, and this is the Drake's, no, I think this is Drake's breath. This is Drake's head. This is Drake's heart. This is Drake's wings. Basically, each of them is a piece of a Drake, and as such, I'd have to assume that Bahamut would come from here. So it's possible that this is someplace right along this border, actually, in this narrow ravine with the footsteps, where the border of Valisthea likely meets the border of the Dalmeckian Empire, and thus a war breaking out, which, you know, is pretty much what's expected to happen in the plotline here. But those are all the screenshots that we currently have for Final Fantasy XVI. I'll be sure to share anything else that we get on the channel, and if you're looking forward to Final Fantasy XVI news, interviews, whatever little bits of information we can get over the next year, don't be concerned. I'll be posting anything and everything I can find. I'll also be doing a count up, playing through the entire Final Fantasy franchise with tons of subs incentives over on Twitch, and I'll likely make some broad Final Fantasy content here on the channel leading up to 16's release. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.